police tapes on that Florida massacre.
Send the police.
The police are on the way. Has anybody been shot?
Yes, we're being killed.
It is another gun control controversy.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Once again tonight, guns. Who gets them and what they do with them. That massacre in Jacksonville, Florida has reignited the controversy. 8 people shot to death, 5 wounded by a man with a violent past in a state with the most wide-open gun laws in the country, in a state with the highest crime rate in the country. We begin with new details on the shooting from NBC's Noah Nelson.
Today, sheriff's authorities played 911 recordings of pleas for help during the Jacksonville shootings.
Yeah, this is GMA. Hey, man, somebody's in here with a shotgun shooting.
78470 Bay Meadows Way, General Motors, GMAC. Complaining about Vanell is in there firing shots. No other info. She just hung up. I'm going to try to call back.
Moments of terror before gunman James Pugh killed himself. The 42-year-old Pugh was a quiet man with a violent past. Long ago, he had established a pattern of brutality. Dating from the mid-60s, court records show an arrest history that includes robbery, assault to murder, manslaughter, and attempted fraud. Earlier this year, Pugh's wife requested a court order asking that he be kept away from her. Today, Jacksonville authorities confirmed that Pugh wounded 4 other people over the weekend before his Monday attack on the finance company. A sometimes unemployed laborer lived alone in his upstairs apartment in Jacksonville's north side. Some neighbors remember him as the loner everybody called Pop. According to this woman, years ago Pugh told her if he ever died violently, it would not be alone. The semi-automatic rifle used in the attacks was registered to Pugh, but the .38 revolver he had at the scene and the 9mm handguns found in his car were not. Police say because Pugh had only served probation for his manslaughter charge, he could honestly answer no on the gun sale application that asked, had he ever served more than 1 year in jail for a crime. Many in this community are still in shock over what has happened, especially the families of the victims, whose sadness is also mixed with anger. 40-year-old Janice David was hiding under a desk when she was shot by Pugh. Her husband, Ray.
All I can say, misery loves company. There's 7 other families going through the same hell we're going through. Why in the hell I don't wish this on anyone else? Why couldn't he have shot the person next to her? I can't do that. But what a waste. What a damn waste.
The finance company office that repossessed Pugh's car was closed today. Noah Nelson, NBC News, Jacksonville, Florida.
Guns are an explosive political issue in Florida, and tonight we have 2 people prominent in the debate in that state. State Representative Ron Silver of Miami Beach and Marion Hammer, a lobbyist for the National Rifle Association in Florida. Mr. Silver, you've been campaigning for a 3-day waiting period to buy a handgun in Florida, but do you really believe that it would have any effect on someone like Pugh, given his past?
Well, Tom, we don't really know whether it would or not, but what we want to do is increase the odds that an incident like this would not happen, and thus we believe that if we can pass this 3-day waiting period, that only good things will result as a result of that happening.
And Ms. Hammer, there are 19 states that have a 3-day waiting period. We're going to show them to the audience right now. Apparently it works to good effect in those states. What sportsman in Florida could resist that idea of just waiting for 3 days, for example, to buy a handgun? Isn't that a good idea?
No, it's not a good idea. And if you look at the states that have a waiting period, you will see that they have tragedies, they have atrocities, and they, too, have crime. In the particular incident in Jacksonville, all of those firearms were acquired years before. A 3-day waiting period would have stopped nothing. What we need to do is look at crime and criminals all across America. People are fed up with violent criminals being turned back out on our streets to commit carnage. Our criminal justice system is a joke. We need to clean up our criminal justice system. We need more judges, more prosecutors, more prisons, and we need to put criminals in jail and keep them there. And then and only then will our streets be safe.
Ron Silver?
Well, I agree with Marion. I chair the Criminal Justice Committee here, and we have enacted some tough laws, and we must make sure that those individuals are kept in prison for longer periods of time. The only thing that Marion and I disagree on is the fact that the gun plays an important role in this particular activity, and we must have reasonable rules and regulations regarding guns.
What do you think the chances are that you'll get that 3-day waiting period in Florida come this fall?
Well, the latest poll we received is, because it's such a common sense principle, is that 85% of the people of Florida agree with me on this particular issue.
And Marion Hammer, I just don't understand why a sportsman wouldn't wait for 3 days for a handgun if there is the chance that it would keep handguns out of the people who may have a violent past, that they could be found out. Why would you object to that?
Whether or not sportsmen object is not the point.
Well, it is part of the point, though, because
we...
they represent the NRA represents sportsmen, and you represent the sportsmen in Florida, and you're a powerful political lobby, so it is part of the point, isn't it?
Now, the question here is whether or not we should be doing something that we know will not be a deterrent to criminals or to crime, and whether or not we should utilize our resources in areas that we know will have some effect. Waiting periods don't work. They never have.
All right, Marion Hammer, Ron Silber, thank you very much. We know this debate will be going on in Florida and across the country, for that matter. In a federal courtroom in Washington today, the issues were cocaine and entrapment. Opening arguments in the trial of Marion Barry, mayor of the nation's capital, on trial on drug and perjury charges. NBC law correspondent Carl Stern is there.
Prosecutors told the jury that while the mayor was preaching to the community down with dope, he was putting dope up his nose. Prosecutor Richard Roberts slowly and dramatically demonstrated how Barry had smoked the drug. Barry sat there jauntily, sporting a large red carnation. As Roberts said, the mayor carried rocks of crack in a matchbox and in his pants cuffs. The mayor's lawyer, R. Kenneth Mundy, shot back angrily that the government had made a deal with the devil in deciding to go after Barry. Referring to the hotel sting where the mayor was arrested, Mundy said the government provided the booze and the bait, such as model Rashida Moore, to entrap Barry, pure and simple, and had offered blanket amnesty to notorious drug traffickers to get them to testify against Barry. That was a reference to convicted drug dealer Charles Lewis. On the witness stand, Lewis showed a hand signal he said was used when the mayor wanted him to fetch cocaine. At hotels and boat parties in the Virgin Islands, Lewis said he smoked marijuana with the mayor and cocaine, at times passing crack smoke almost mouth to mouth. Lewis also described a succession of women he brought to Barry's hotel room. The mayor's wife attended today but said nothing as the day ended. Barry's lawyer complained the testimony about adultery and Virgin Island parties would inflame and prejudice the jury, but the judge refused to disallow it. Carl Stern, NBC News at Federal District Court in Washington.
Also coming up here tonight on NBC Nightly News, a woman raped every 6 minutes in this country, just one of many shocking numbers in a report on women and violent crime. What can be done? And a brighter note in the news tonight.
It's mine, you understand? Mine, all mine. Get that in there. Down, down, down. Go, go, go. Mine, mine, mine.
Look what's back. Cartoons are all the rage and a formula for big bucks. George Lewis is our animated reporter.
I was racing.
The question in Moscow tonight is the party over? The Soviet Communist Party, for more than 70 years, the beginning and end of power in the USSR. Mikhail Gorbachev wants to change many things, but he wants to keep the party intact. Today, he was forced to give up a piece of it as he came face to face with the power of his chief critic. Here's NBC's Bob Abernathy.
Gorbachev and his political rival Boris Yeltsin together today as if nothing divided them. And Yeltsin claimed the two men had no quarrel.
What for? We stretched out our hands to each other and decided to put our dislikes aside.
As president of the huge Russian Federation, with 3/4 of the Soviet Union's land and more than half its people, Yeltsin wants more independence from the central government Gorbachev runs. So do many other Russians. And today, a conference of more than 2,700 Russian communists voted overwhelmingly to move toward creation of their own Communist Party, separate from the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Gorbachev had opposed that idea. Today, however, he went along, bowing to the inevitable, but also defending the role of the center.
I sharply disagree with those who seek the salvation of Russia in withdrawing from the Soviet Union.
Gorbachev went on to attack both the party's right and left, while the right and left attacked him and each other.
It is very important to found this Russian party on the principles of Marxism and Leninism.
If we hold on to all dogmas, the party will disappear.
This founding meeting of the Russian Communist Party comes 2 weeks before a crucial Congress of all Soviet communists at which Gorbachev is expected to come under even more attack from right and left, but probably to survive. Bob Abernathy, NBC News, Moscow.
Back in this country, you'll recall it was last January when a Colombian Avianca jetliner crashed while approaching New York's Kennedy Airport. 73 people were killed when that plane slammed into a hillside on Long Island. Today, the government released tapes of radio conversations with the control tower. The tapes show that while the pilots radioed they were low on fuel, they never really indicated an emergency. NBC's Robert Hager has details tonight.
The audio tapes reveal that in a bad weather holding pattern 40 miles out of Kennedy Airport, the pilots did warn that they needed to get moving.
How long can you hold and what is your opening? Yes, sir, we'll be able to hold about 5 minutes. That's all I can do.
But once released from that pattern, the pilots never mentioned fuel again, until after missing their first attempt to land through rain and fog. Even then, instead of insisting on a tight circle for a second landing attempt, they agreed to a longer route. Investigators said all the radio transmissions seemed almost casual.
Executing a mass approach, I think.
Roger, probably maintain 2,000, turn left heading 180.
We'll try once again, we're running out of fuel.
Okay.
Climb maintain 3,000. Climb maintain 3,000 and we're running out of fuel. I'm going to bring you about 15 miles northeast and then turn you back home for the approach. Is that fine with you and your fuel? I guess so. Thank you very much. Climb maintain 3,000. Negative, sir. We're just running out of fuel. We just lost 2 engines and we need the priority complete. Avianca 052, you have enough fuel to make it to the airport? Avianca 052, radar contact lost.
Contact lost because the plane had crashed. Investigators tell NBC News that they believe the plane's fate was sealed from the moment the first landing was missed. That even a tight circle around would have taken 11 minutes, while there was only 8 minutes fuel left. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
A New York State trooper on a cross-country bicycle trip to campaign against drunk driving was hit by a car and suffered multiple fractures in New Jersey today. The man driving that car was charged with, you guessed it, drunk driving. Women in this country are crying out for help to protect them against an epidemic of violence. In the last decade, rape has increased 4 times faster than any other crime. Today, a bill to combat violence against women was introduced in the U.S. Senate, and tomorrow, hearings on the problem will begin. NBC's Andrea Mitchell tonight reports on the victims.
But he went downstairs and got an axe. Then he grabbed me by my throat, and he threw me on the bed, and he kept choking me. I didn't get unconscious or anything, but I was actually really, terrified.
She is one of an estimated 4 million women who are battered each year.
I just want him to leave me alone.
Officials say a woman is beaten in this country every 18 seconds, raped every 6 minutes. Violent crime against women is out of control and not where you would expect it. Cities with the highest rate of rape are not crime centers like New York or Washington, but Tyler, Texas, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, anywhere USA. More rapes and beatings are being reported partly because of television movies like The Burning Bed, about an abused wife who murdered her husband. It encouraged women to turn in abusive men who think they have the right to beat women.
Like they have a right to do it. I mean, they come in cavalierly. Like there's been no crime. This is just a domestic. This is my girlfriend. That's what they tell me.
The legislation would provide grants to encourage more prosecution of domestic violence and rape, provide money for shelters to house battered women, and give victims the right to sue for damages under the Civil Rights Act.
It is a gender crime. It is a violent crime based on your gender. And it seems to me that you should have the civil rights protection as well as the criminal laws protection when that occurs.
But physical protection would come first, in safe places like this shelter, and with prosecutors who are trained to be more sensitive to women's fears, so that more women would seek help.
It's embarrassing to have a man of all to hit you, to beat you, to cut you, and you don't do anything about it. But you always say, well, I can understand he probably frustrated about something or he didn't have a good day. But, I mean, why should he take it out on you?
Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
And there is a battle over freedom of expression. It involves a 12-year-old New York City schoolgirl, the people who run the city subways. They're refusing to display an anti-smoking poster that she drew. This poster takes off on the Western theme of some cigarette ads. But subway advertising officials say it might offend cigarette advertisers. The young artist responded, quote, "If the cigarette companies are allowed to say what they want, why can't I say what I want?" Back in a moment with that continuing savings and loan debate. Who's responsible? The continuing debate over the constitutional amendment to ban flag burning now moves to the floor of the House of Representatives. Today, the Judiciary Committee voted to send it to the floor without any recommendation. Opponents say they do have enough House votes to defeat it, however. Another hot political issue, the savings and loan scandal, something that affects every American. Congressional Democrats in the White House now have started playing the blame game. White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater today issued an unusually strong warning to Democrats, saying they are as much to blame as anyone. The Democrats fired back, one saying that George Bush doesn't want to do much about the problem. Another called Bush the SNL president. NBC's John Cochran is at the White House tonight. Does this response from Marlin Fitzwater mean that the Democrats are getting close on this issue, John?
It does. Tom, you know, for a long time now, there's been an unspoken agreement among Democrats and Republicans that if they start attacking each other, blaming each other for the SNL fiasco, then everyone, both sides, will get hurt. But over the last week, the Democrats have gone on the attack. In fact, today, the House Democratic leadership was issuing so-called talking points to its members, urging Democrats to go after the president to accuse him of, for example, foot-dragging in prosecuting cases of SNL fraud. Here at the White House, the Senate Republican leader Bob Dole told President Bush the Democrats will definitely use this as a big campaign issue this fall in the congressional races. A short time later, Marlin Fitzwater walked out and said if the Democrats want to play hardball, the White House will do the same. He accused the Democrats of playing a major role in the SNL fiasco.
Thank you very much. John Cochran at the White House tonight. We'll be checking back with you, of course, on that issue as time goes along. The airline that Donald Trump had named after himself, the Trump Shuttle, made a $1 million payment today on a bank loan, but he still remains in danger of bankruptcy unless he comes up with another $42 million for other loans by next Tuesday. Meanwhile, Trump's estranged wife, Ivana, is taking in the social scene in London. And the owner and patrons of a diner in Elizabeth, New Jersey, are taking up a collection to help out the Donald, as he is called.
And I believe every man has a right to walk this earth. Unfortunately, in his case, he made a few boo-boos that he should have maybe talked to me about. I could have helped him. Maybe he should listen to the little man a little bit.
Today, the little guys and the big guys in Wall Street sent stock prices on a roller coaster ride that ended on the upside. First, it was that book by Salman Rushdie that ran afoul of officials in Iran. Now it's a year-and-a-half-old American movie, The Naked Gun. The Leslie Nielsen comedy has just arrived in Turkey and is playing in 5 theaters, but Iranian officials want it stopped. Here's why. 3 of the theaters say that they have cut this part out of the movie after receiving bomb threats. The other 2 say they're showing it uncut and it's doing great at the box office. Naked Gun, of course, was a spoof of the old detective movies. Hollywood is a place that, after all, believes in recycling a good idea. Take animated cartoons, Toons. For some time now, they appear to be as down and out as the Coyote in the Roadrunner series. But suddenly, they're back, bigger and richer than ever. NBC's George Lewis tonight.
But I'm a Toon. Toons are supposed to make people laugh. Sit down!
The Toons, those wild, wonderful, wacky animated characters who used to tickle movie audiences at neighborhood theaters all over the land. For a while, they were an endangered species. But not because of some bad guy trying to murder the Toons. It was movie studio bean counters who thought animation wasn't profitable.
When we started into the television business, there was absolutely no money. And they closed down the entire cartoon industry and the theatrical cartoons.
animators rushed to the unemployment lines. Toontown shut down, and about all that remained were the reruns on TV.
That's all, folks.
But now the Toons are fighting back.
Of course, you know this means war.
A war led by a couple of unlikely heroes.
Well, I think that there has been two characters now in the last 15 years that have jumped off the screen. One is Roger Rabbit, and one is Bart Simpson.
Don't have a cow, Dad.
They're no longer just cartoon characters in a movie. They become part of our life, part of our heritage, part of our culture.
And part of the Hollywood money machine. Last year, a Roger Rabbit short, Tummy Trouble, helped pack movie houses for the Disney film Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The combination grossed $130 million. This summer, Disney is betting that Roger's new cartoon, Roller Coaster Rabbit, will help Dick Tracy sell tickets.
Save me! Save me!
On the TV side, rival programmers are having a cow over the success the Fox network is enjoying with The Simpsons. Other networks are looking for tunes that are ready for prime time. Hollywood is having a cartoon renaissance. One theater chain, AMC, has brought back the old Warner Brothers Looney Tunes classics to the delight of all those baby boomers who have come of age.
We're having kids, and we're experiencing childhood again.
I mean, I've got a 3-year-old, and he walks around going, kill the wabbit.
I'll kill the wabbit!
So Toontown has become a boom town once again, and the animators are laughing all the way to the bank.
I'm rich! I'm wealthy! Yahoo!
George Lewis, NBC News, Hollywood.
I'm comfortably well off. Woohoo!
That's all, folks, for this Tuesday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.